one perfect, and kind of like this is good and bad, but you have to like live through it anyways. April 15th started out as a beautiful morning, 60 degrees and sunny, which was a bit.
I really love how you kind of contrast like that mundane experience versus like that extraordinary event. Obviously, this bombing that happened like on this day, which started off as so simple, 60 degrees and sunny, and you talk about going to your favorite pizza place and getting ice cream. Excuse me. So I think like that contrast was so impactful or impacting, and I don't, and it seems so subtle at the same time. So I loved that contrast.
There's another thing that I really liked. When you were talking about your fear, when you're talking about like you were afraid to go into your backyard, every backpack was a threat, stuff like that. I really like that because I feel like that's something that people can relate to. Like I know that maybe like the readers of the essay can't relate to it, like the college readers, but I know that like I as a person I was experiencing the same thing. So I really liked how you made that like out in the open. And I feel like a lot of people could relate to that, like in other situations, like after 9/11 or something like that. Like you can build a link with your readers through that.
I also love how, just like she was saying, you also did that in the back towards the beginning. You said, like some theorists mentioning bombs and trash cans. As we passed each sidewalk trash can, my pace picked up. I love how you are able to kind of give information on what's going on in the moment and how you're connecting that back to yourself and how that impacted you, which I think is really important because it's showing your emotions and how you feel in the moment and where your fear is kicking in.
I know this was mentioned before, but the repetition of the lucky her, because I was asking myself, and I wrote the question down of like, okay, so what was your purpose in writing that, or making that stylistic choice? And for me, the way I interpreted it was almost setting up like sort of a metaphor of how lucky her, and it's someone that's you're in the same cart, and I'm envisioning this same cart of the train. Maybe she's sitting on this side and you're sitting here, and it's like you're very close, but one is experiencing that like that traumatizing event while the other one is sort of next to this like nice dog. Mm-hmm. And I think it's like it serves as like a larger metaphor for kind of going back to what I was talking about earlier with how you were living right outside Boston. So like you were very close to the event, and it's just to show you that like how, like you said, how complex life is, that in the same small space one could be affected and the other one is completely in La La Land almost. So yeah, I love that.
Well, we're on the topic of
I have one question, because towards the end when you started talking about like this change that you underwent, like it's obvious from like your point of view that you underwent like a change, and you start saying it at the end, but I really want to know more about like what happened. Like how long did this change take? How, like what kind of fears did you have to overcome, and like what did you learn as a person, kind of? Because I know you definitely start at it in this like last 2 paragraphs areas, but I'm just like, I want to know more about you,
Yeah, so like when I was writing it, that was the part that I was kind of having trouble with, getting more into that, so I appreciate you saying that.
Do you think that applying your experience and what you learned to how you can apply it in college might be beneficial, or like how you can apply it to like life in general? Because I know some students like tend to like apply their experience to college in itself, like in order to apply it to like the demographic that will be reading it, or to like life in general. Like which one do you think would be more effective?
I think maybe life in general.
So what I was wondering between the 2 single paragraphs when you said lucky her, the second time that you said it, you said she did not experience the fear that I did in that moment. I wanted to know a little bit more about when that fear kicked in, or when you came to the realization that something was wrong. Like I wanted to see that shift in perspective between when you were like innocent, or when you were oblivious to the dangers of the world, and when you actually said, okay, there's something going on. What am I going to do to be safe?
I'm thinking, like I was kind of wondering if there was any way that we could cut some of like what you had here to like really show like everyone on the train is like starting to pull out their phones, or getting phone calls or whatever. So I'm like I wasn't there, so I don't know exactly what happened and all. I'm trying to think if there are ways that you could like combine some of your sentences, just to shorten up a little bit about like the phone call itself, like you could be like, oh, I saw my aunt on the phone, and then talk about like what was going on in the train, because that would like help strengthen like the sense of fear within, like, well, it would show like the sense of fear within you, and like strengthen the contrast.